Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Retirement Resilience. My name is Jason, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how I was forced to retire at the age of 29, nearly 22 years ago. Well, to start the story off, I want to set the stage of just my work ethic, who I was. At the age of 8 years old, I technically got my first job. Every day after school, I would go down to the local barber shop and I would sweep up hair, fold towels, dust shelves. And Gary, the amazing barber who owned Gary's Barber Shop, paid me sometimes $5 a week, sometimes it may be $6, whatever, he had in his register for me at the end of the week. And I was always truly blessed that he saw me and gave me an opportunity and really taught me what it meant to be on time and created a work ethic in me. And that continued throughout my whole childhood. I didn't grow up with much. My family did not have the means to get me all the cool new things or be able to give me a few bucks to get a burger or something with my friends. I had to make that happen. And even at an early age, I learned what it meant to put in the work to get that. By the time I hit my teenage years, my mom was a single mom, and she was raising myself and my older brother and my younger sister. And we lived in this small apartment complex where I happened to be the oldest out there that would go and play with all the kids and met a lot of cool friends. And there was a lot of single moms, that had to work or they wanted to go out or whatever. And they entrusted in me to watch their kids a lot. I was the apartment complex babysitter. So they would give me a few bucks to spend some time with their kids at night while they went out to work or maybe just a Friday night out with their friends. That reputation carried over into a gentleman that was dating one of the girls that was a manager at a sandwich shop. And he offered me my first real job at the age of 15 and a half where I was making sandwiches. That lasted about 3.5 to almost 4 months when I met a gentleman that offered me an opportunity to get into the grocery business and be a bag boy at a local grocery store, which was a part of a union. It had benefits, it paid more than minimum wage. And I was just thrilled for the opportunity. It was kind of hard to get into that grocery store and work for that company. So for someone to come in and offer me the opportunity was amazing. I didn't hesitate to take the job. And that was pretty much the foundation of my life right there at that moment. Like everything that I have set out and learned through all my childhood and all these little side jobs and just being responsible and respectful gave me the opportunity at a very young age to have, a job that paid more than minimum wage, my own benefits by the age of 16. It was quite the experience, and my mom definitely appreciated it. I was able to help out a little bit at home. That excitement and that joy was shortly lived. By the age of 17, I was diagnosed with a disease called Stargardt's. Stargardt's is a junior onset of macular degeneration. Both my brother and I have it. And it's a slow progressive eye condition that puts scar tissue on your macula. As you could think of, right? It wasn't the easiest thing to hear at the age of 17. I didn't even have my driver's license yet. Shortly after, I was encouraged and motivated and inspired to run out, and that was the first thing I did. Went out and got myself a car by the age of 18. And that was an accomplishment in itself. I wanted to be able to drive before I couldn't. Now, back in these days, there was no ADA, there was no direction of, how do you cope with sight loss? And only thing I could think of to do was just go out and live a fast-paced life and try to enjoy life as much as I can. I didn't know literally what life would look like in the future. I became a single father at a young age. By the time I was 22, I had a son. God blessed me with the opportunity, even though I had it out of wedlock and didn't make the best choices in the way that he was conceived. I was able to gain custody. So I not only had a son, but I was a single father at the age of 22. I worked really, really hard in the grocery business. I worked my way up into a big box store, a well-known store in California, and became management. I was management level. I was management quality. And that was another thing that I look back even today. And I'm very proud of the work and the integrity that I showed to even have that opportunity, right? Things were going pretty well for me. I had made enough money to take care of me and my son, and everything was going well until a program called WIC. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but WIC is a government program for women and children. That's why it's called WIC, W-I-C. I believe it still exists today in California. It's done all digitally now with cards and such. But back in these days, it was done with paper check. And the parents would get these paper checks. The moms would come in and allow them to get healthy things like cereal or baby formula and eggs and cheese and things like that for their children. And they had dates. And my eyes were, and I noticed it a little bit. I noticed that my eyes were kind of fading a little bit, and it was hard to see detail and read, obviously. And I took a couple of bad checks, not intentionally, obviously, and it's not like I wasn't reading them or anything. I just couldn't make out a 3 from an 8, for example. It was a very common one. Maybe a 7 and a 9 was another issue I would have from time to time. And so what happens with those government type checks is, after so many mistakes or so many bad checks taken, the federal government wants you to be reprimanded. And at least this company said that, hey, you get one more, we may have to let you go, or we may not. And remind you, I'm in management. I'm not like top man. I didn't have my own store or anything. I was part of the management team. And for the first time ever in my life, I felt really scared, really like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? And the only thing that I could think of at that moment was to finally open up about my eye condition. It was the first time that I ever openly talked about having a visual impairment. And needless to say, their faces about dropped. They didn't know if I was telling the truth or, how they should handle it. Again, a lot of this stuff was new. The ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, was very new at this time. I mean, to be quite honest with you, even I didn't know about it. They contacted HR, and HR knew about it, and they stepped in right away, and they advised me to go get documentation of the fact that I have this eye condition and where it's at. So once again, I had to revisit this whole painful scenario where I had to start off by going to an ophthalmologist who sent me to a specialist. And for the very first time, I was sitting in the chair and the specialist looked at me and says, yeah, you are legally blind. And I didn't understand that because I'm sitting, even to this day, if you don't know that I have a visual impairment, you would have no idea I was legally blind. That's a big word, right? Most people that hear that word, they say, okay, well, you can't see at all. Not the case. Detail is everything. So that hit pretty hard. So I went back to work and had to let them know that, well, I do have this eye condition like I told you, but they're saying that I'm legally blind, which caused a whole nother panic at the store, and more people came. It wasn't just HR. They brought in union reps and they brought in all these people, and it was this just long going situation where they were trying to figure out how to handle someone like me. At the time, I would be taking in loads off trucks and using forklifts and all this stuff. Obviously, they pulled me off that immediately, and it just started going and fading down and down and down until the verdict came down where I was considered too much of a liability and I was let go. And living in the Bay Area of California, or for people who may know, it would be the Silicon Valley. It's kind of where Facebook is, Apple, Microsoft, things like that. I lived in that area. Very expensive place to live, especially for a single father. So I had to relocate into Central California, still driving, deemed legally blind and still driving my truck. I packed up all my stuff, packed up my son. I came over here and stayed with my mother. My mother was living here in Central California. And that's where this all begins. And this is where I'm at. I mean, obviously this was almost 22 years ago, but this was the beginning of my retirement resilience. I never thought in a million years that I would be put in a situation where I was on a set income as a single father at the age of 29, having to pick up everything I own and move to an unknown place and not knowing what was going to happen, what was next on my plate. I did know that I had to find supplementary income, which I did through the SSDI program. I mean, lucky enough for me, I've been working since I was 15 years old, and I obviously worked my way into, a decent check from SSDI, and I also got a supplementary income check for having a son. That is pretty much how I was able to at least land on my feet a little bit. But mind you, I mean, this was a significant pay cut from my management paycheck that I was getting from the grocery store. So I knew that the road ahead of me was going to be rough. I had no idea what I was going to do, not only financially, but I was trying to figure out what was happening to me emotionally. And, I had responsibilities. I had a son to raise, so I was dealing with physical stuff. I was dealing with emotional stuff, and I was dealing with financial stuff. I was dealing with the idea that I'm more scared than I was at 16, 17 years old. Like, what is my vision going to be like in the future? I mean, fast forward to right now, I mean, I know where I stand not only visually, but I understand the disease enough. I understand legal blindness enough. I understand just visual impairment to the degree that I know that I'm going to be okay. But it didn't take away the fact that, I mean, I didn't even have a moment in time to think about what I would want my life to look like in retirement. I had no clue on what I needed to do for retirement. What are some of the options I had? And I find myself forced into a retirement lifestyle at the age of 29. And that's the beginning of my journey in retirement resilience. And on this channel, I hope just to continue to share my story of what happened from the age of 30 till now, and how I am kind of facing the same scenario, but a little worse, and we'll be getting into that. Some of the things I learned, some of the things I'm going to re-implement again to try to set myself up for a life, as I'm now going to be 52 this year, that I have hope, I have direction, I have a plan. And I'm just inviting you guys along for the ride. I hope my story kind of inspires you, motivates you. You kind of see it from a different perspective and what your situation may be like. And not only maybe I'm able to hopefully share something with you that helps you out, but maybe building a community and you guys leaving comments and inspiring me and kind of helping me through the process as I try to navigate this back into my life as I face some more trials and tribulations. So thank you for listening. I look forward to getting to know all of you. Please take the time to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and give me a thumbs up if you're intrigued of where this story can go and what this journey may look like. And just remember, retirement is not the end. It's just a test to who you become next. This is Retirement Resilience. I am Jason, and I'll see you guys on the next video.